G'day guys, Sam here. Welcome to the first ever episode of How to Shoot a Deer in New Zealand. Basically, just what I want the purpose of this little series to be is just the basics of hunting in New Zealand, from where to go to potentially see animals all the way through to what to do with the meat afterwards. Just kind of geared towards those of you who are maybe just learning how to hunt. You've pretty much just sat in front of your computer and Googled how to shoot a deer in New Zealand. You're just after some basic tips. That's kind of what I want the point of this little series to be. So, the first episode, I'm going to go over where to go. Essentially, where do you want to go if you're wanting to, go and see a deer or a pig or a goat in the bush. If you're thinking that I'm just going to give you some GPS coordinates or some of my secret spots, I'm afraid that's not quite how it works, but what I can do is show you the websites I use, kind of what to look for, looking at maps and stuff like that, that kind of increase your chances of finding an animal. So yeah, unfortunately, if you were thinking I was just going to tell you, go here, go here, go here, yeah, you're out of luck, unfortunately. Anyway, we'll get into it. Before I do that though, I will say straight off the bat, I am not an expert in hunting. I definitely don't consider myself like the best in the biz or anything like that. I've still got plenty to learn, but there might be a few of you out there who have a little bit more to learn than I do. On that note though, there are also a couple way better resources out there online, and the New Zealand Deer Stalkers Association, the NZDA, they do what's called a hunts course, like a hunter training scheme. It's awesome. I'll chuck a link for that down below. Just chuck a couple links down there for you guys to take a look at if you want. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into where to find a deer. Alright, let's get into it. So, whenever I'm looking at a new area that I want to explore, the first website I always go to is this one right here, this Department of Conservation map website. You literally just Google doc map or just put in that one there and it's going to pop up. It's an awesome interactive map. The first thing you probably want to do is go into the features and just click hunting areas. And this is the pretty easiest way to figure out if you can go hunting there with a standard simple doc permit. So, I don't know, let's say you live in Auckland. Unfortunately, yeah, unlucky if you're in Auckland, there's not many places around. You kind of have to drive all the way down to maybe the Puriordas down here or the Kaimai's up here. Those are usually where most Aucklanders go, also I've heard. Anyway, what I'm going to do is essentially pretend that this spot right here, which is a spot that you definitely can't go hunting in, is the spot that I'm interested in. I don't want to give away anyone's secret spots or anything like that, so I'm going to go here where I know no one is going to be hunting there. Well, maybe some people, but no one's supposed to be hunting there. So, pretty much, I'll look at this area here. You can click on it and it'll tell you the name of it. There's a name up there in the corner. So, next thing I'll do is, the cool thing about this is that you also have a satellite. And the satellite on the doc map is actually really good. It's not like Google Maps, like it's actually even better. Like you can actually get, this has got like a filter, obviously it's got the red filter on it, but it actually looks pretty good. Yes, where you can see clearings, you can see rivers, you can see, stuff like that. So what I do there is use that, and then I go to Google Earth and find the same thing. Obviously this is a little bit pre-prepared, but this is the same spot. Zoom in, and the cool thing about Google Earth is that obviously when you're looking at the topo map, you can see the hills, and you can tell that, this bit's flatter, this bit's a little bit more hilly, this is like a little volcano-shaped looking thing. But it can be kind of tricky to make it look 3D in your mind. Thankfully, Google Earth does that. You just go into the same spot, and you can actually just have a look around, and it actually visualizes it way better for you, so you can tell obviously this here is literally, that's the same volcano thing I was talking about, but it's quite nice and flat. The next thing I do is open up a third tab, and I literally just Google like the general area, maybe the road to get in or something like that, and I just Google blah 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 hunting. Obviously nothing's gonna pop up here because this is a restricted hunting area and no one's talking about it. But more often than not, actually, there will be some old, like, NZ Hunting Forum post about someone asking, oh yeah, what's the go here? Are there any animals? Is it, stuff like that. And yeah, a lot of the time you can actually find some random web page that like here, for example, the NZ Hunting and Shooting Forum, big shout out to them. They're awesome. It's just a whole bunch of hunters over there from New Zealand just putting in their advice and stories and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. The doc website honestly doesn't really tell you much. It'll tell you what animals are in there. It'll tell you what species of deer, stuff like that. But apart from that, it doesn't really tell you too much. The forums is kind of where you get the little tidbits of really valuable information that you need to try to remember. Alrighty, so I've just zoomed into a random little area and I'm gonna try point out a few things which immediately catch my eye. First and foremost, it's flat-ish, but there's still quite a bit of elevation there, which is actually quite good. In my experience, the deer, they like a few hills, but you can also find them on the flat. I don't know, like, the one thing that, if you're going to take anything away from this video, or this series in general, is that you can think that the deer are going to be here, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, but at the end of the day, the deer do not care at all what you think. They do what they want. So the best we can do is guess and hope. So first and foremost, it's nice and flat. It's flat, but it's still quite undulating. Like, this is it's a good mid ground. It's not super steep like this. This would be so steep, gorgy, and quite shit. You can tell here that there's definitely a bit of a creek here, and there's the ridges in between. This would be so steep and gross. Around here is looking quite nice, and even here too. So the heads of creeks, whether they're marked on the map or not, are usually quite a nice area to go. For some reason, the deer seem to like it, not necessarily along the creeks themselves, but getting into the heads of the creeks. There's usually a lot of punga in there, which provides good shelter, and there's also usually quite a bit of feed in there too for them. It's a good spot to find deer if you're bush stalking during the day. So the head of this creek is quite nice, head of that creek's probably quite good, and it says kind of flat, but you can always expect it to be a little bit steeper. Another area where you can find deer, which is quite good, might be somewhere like here. So here you can tell it's a bit of it's almost like a bench. So you can, obviously there's the creek here, and along the side is like the edge. It's a bit of a steep sort of thing. But just here, it's just here's like where it's a little bit flatter. Like here's quite steep because the lines are close together. Here, where the lines are a bit further apart, that's a good little bench. And the deer do like flat bits, and especially if you're in steep places like the Tararuas, the Te Urewera, places like that, these little flat bench areas when it's like really steep, deer love hanging out there. It's flatter, there's probably a bit more feed there. The deer, it's a good place for a deer to bed up during the day. In my experience, little subtle things like that can actually have quite a good little impact on where the deer might be. Okay, so that might not have been as helpful as I was hoping it was going to be, but basically once you've done your research and you've found an area where you could go for a bit of a look, have a bit of a walk around, get boots on the ground, get in there. I will say winter is not a good time to explore new spots. Because the deer are not moving around at all. They kind of have their little spot and they kind of stay there for the whole winter months. Summer is a great time to explore new areas and stuff like that. The days are long, the animals are moving around heaps because there's way more feed and stuff like that. Summer and especially spring, not September, that doesn't really count as spring. I'd say October, November, those are some of the best months to hunt in my opinion. And when it comes to exploring new areas, get boots on the ground, have a bit of a walk around. I don't know, you might get lucky. I've been in spots for the first time and seen animals quite often, actually. It kind of gets funny. You start thinking of beginner's luck is actually a thing, because a lot of the time I've gone into new areas having no idea what I'm doing and actually spooked animals. So it absolutely does happen. But anyway, get boots on the ground, have a bit of a walk around, look for sign. If there's sign there, there's animals there. You might not see an animal, but if there's sign, there's animals. Awesome. If there's no sign, cool. You learned where not to go. So then just don't go back there. Or if you get bored or get desperate, go back there at a different time of year. You never know. The deer do move around a little bit throughout the year. But anyway, that's enough of me sitting in front of a computer talking to you guys. I think it's time to head out into the field. Now, the $1,000,000 question is, what is a good area for deer? And the answer is, it depends. Like, is it a nice open area like this? Sometimes. I've seen deer in areas like this. Is it really tight, thick, scrubby stuff that you can't even get through? Yeah, sometimes. Is it a clearing on the edge of a farm? Yeah, sometimes. Is it, a lovely northern facing basin? Sometimes. It absolutely just depends on the environment you're in, the time of year. That's a huge one. I'll make another video about deer behavior and stuff throughout the year, but time of year is another massive influence on where the deer are going to be. Yeah, there's so much. Like feed, obviously, the deer are going to be somewhere where they can eat food, right? There's, a lot of plants they can't eat. They don't eat the ferns, really. They don't eat, I don't know, this grassy looking stuff, apparently. What they like eating is things like broadleaf, a lot of the palatable trees, like when their branches fall down, and they'll pick them up off the ground, stuff like that, and those sort of trees are everywhere, so a deer could theoretically be everywhere. Like, it's really hard. Unfortunately, there's not, set areas where, this is where you're going to see a deer every time. Now, that being said, there are some areas which are, most of the time, a lot better than others, and this is one of those areas. Instantly, there's footprints right there. Great sign. This whole thing is a highway. So where I am right now is the head of a creek, but a tiny creek. It's a creek that doesn't register on the topo maps. All it is a little dent in the topographic lines, and sometimes that means it's a little punga gut with all these punga trees, which means it's nice and open underfoot. The ground is nice and soft, and there's sometimes really nice grassy open spots like this. So when I talk about looking for like creek heads and stuff like that, sometimes the best spots are actually the little tiny creeks that you can't even see on the map. You just have to kind of guess they're there. So yeah, there are some areas which are definitely better than others, and this is one of those areas. Alright guys, hey, a couple very quick things from me. First and foremost, if you have any of your own tips to do with this sort of topic, things that you've learned yourself, chuck them in the comments. I'm sure there's heaps of people out there who would be super keen to read a few extra tips, and I'm sure I've still got plenty to learn myself. I will chuck a couple links down below for other places where you can go that cover all these topics about hunting in New Zealand way better than I ever could, so I'll chuck those links below. But anyway, that's going to be all from me. I hope you guys learned a thing or two. If you want to see kind of the whole series, like all the videos that I've put out about, hunting, how to shoot a deer in New Zealand, I'll chuck the box over there for you. And if you want to see a video of me going out and potentially shooting something, I'll chuck a box over there for you. Anyway, that's all from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next one.